Live. I don't
went
care.
live. You did it. You did it.
I know, Diana, and we were trying to sneak in a live version without Sean, and then he found us.
I know.
We even gave him the wrong link.
You're trying to
gave him the wrong
podcast
link.
behind your back, Sean.
Why not?
It happens often.
Yeah. Oh no, really?
We would never.
Not with you.
With other people.
With
are we your only friends?
With my other co-hosts, when you're not invited, they tend to leave me out too. To really complicate things.
How can we be the Three Musketeers without you? Come on,
that's right.
You gotta be on.
We need all three
of us. It's the three of us for sure.
It's the three of us.
And our fourth guest. And our fourth guest. I love our fourth guest.
Elijah. Yeah. It's one of our most insightful guests.
You know, I think at this point is our invisible friend. So we have a guest all the time. You just can't see it. And he's really smart.
And she's really smart.
She's really smart. They are really smart.
They are so smart.
Because sometimes I have multiple invisible friends, imaginary friends in my head.
Yes. Do they vogue? That's the question.
Are we even really trying to bring guests, or are we just so selfish that we want all this for ourselves? You're trying, but they don't want to come.
We've tried.
We're not trying.
We've actively tried.
Well, now we sound bad.
I know.
People don't like us.
That's how it goes.
No, look.
Maybe we're just too trendsetty for them. I don't know. No. You know
how I feel we are, and I refer here to your old, your past as a independent radio in the college.
WZBC 90.3 FM Newton.
Where were you transmitting from? Like your location? Was it some hidden location?
Secret bunker. No, it was. It's actually. It was from McElroy Commons at Boston College. So the McElroy Commons was the student area, and it was built into this. Basically, this because it's the school on the hill. So we were actually going into a hill. So at the front of the commons, there were all these big windows, and that's where you had like the school newspaper, and they had windows. And as you kept going back down the hallway, then it got to like the student poetry magazine, which was just a little. Then at the very end of the hallway, with absolutely no light at all coming in, just basically underground was where the radio station studios were, and then our transmitter, I think, was in another part of Newton, but we actually broadcast our studios. We're in this basement of McElroy Commons. And
that's exactly what I was envisioning, like this pirate radio. Have you ever seen the movie Pirate Radio, where they are transmitting from the boat outside in the UK? So every college radio for me in my head is always transmitting from some undisclosed location, kind of being alternatives.
Well, and we were actually pretty alternative because Boston College, at least when I went there, was not the place you would expect WZBC's kind of broadcasting to be broadcast from. So yeah, we were a little bit of the outcasts of the school. Didn't always look like we fit in with the rest of the.
And I'm wondering if that's what's happening to us. Are we the outcast and nobody wants to join us?
For sure.
I'd like to think we are. I always have that pirate attitude.
Outcast, iconoclast. I mean, it kind of depends on the lens you see it through, right?
Yeah. So if you want to be one of us, join the society here and be a guest. Please come with us.
Just like our fourth guest today.
Yeah. Who is it, Sean?
You can have a spot. They're the fourth spot. You just can't see them. You have to look really hard.
Well, one day you will hear, and people cannot see us because they're listening to the podcast. They don't know. Maybe it's somebody right here with us, just not very talkative. That's it.
Sure.
It's Sean has a puppet.
That's right.
He has a puppet, and he's very knowledgeable in technology.
That's right.
We'll see the news that he brings up today. So let's get this thing started, because I don't think today we want to go for an hour. We got important things to do. This is not important. I know that sounded really.
Is this
really
podcast
bad.
getting in the way of like your?
This podcast is
the
really
rest of your
getting
work,
in the
Marco?
way. You know what is getting in the way of me having fun all day long? I kind of want to be on this podcast or this radio feeling
Let's just let
program.
it stream. We'll let it keep going after we're done.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Remember, we stream everything we do
There you
right here. Like, what was the movie, Sean,
The
that you
Truman
brought up
Show?
the other day? Yeah, The Truman
go.
Show.
Yeah, why not?
Do the same thing. Do the
That's
same thing. But we don't. What do we do here, Sean?
We do something with a fourth guest that's not with us. And typically, who knows, maybe we'll switch it. But typically, it's bringing a news item around technology that intrigues us, inspires us, pisses us off. something about it makes us want to talk about it. And we have a good time. That's
We
the main
do.
thing.
I really look forward to it. I was obviously kidding about the fact that this was in my way. This is actually my highlight every of the week. I always look forward to this. And Diana, how are things going with you? Anything special that you brought up today in terms of some technological advancement that we want to know?
I do. Well, it's not necessarily an advancement, but it's a little bit of a callback to some of the topics we've discussed before, like ice cream and the right to repair. And they actually
Well, at least
meet.
it wasn't ice cream and snails.
Okay, ice cream and snails. Well, I guess if we were in France, maybe then it would be ice cream and snails.
Escargot ice cream?
Exactly.
Nice.
Escargot mixins.
Escar gelato.
Escargot in Italy. So, okay. So back when I was when I was still a vegetarian, when I was a vegetarian, not before I was a vegan, I used to love McDonald's soft serve. Have you guys ever had McDonald's soft serve?
Nope.
I have.
You've never had it? Okay. Well,
Nope.
It's pretty unique and pretty delicious. It probably has no nutritional value, but in any case, I remember loving them, and then I stopped eating them because I became a vegan. And apparently after I stopped eating McDonald's ice cream, this whole big meme emerged about not being able to get McDonald's ice cream cones because the ice cream machines were constantly broken. And this is a meme. If you go onto Twitter, you can find people that are like always gnashing their teeth and saying like, where's the McDonald's ice cream? It's such a big deal that someone who also loved McDonald's ice cream created a site called Mcbroken. And Mcbroken goes out and queries all the 13,000 plus McDonald's stores in the country and tries to order an ice cream cone. And if it can't, then it comes up with, hey, that's Mcbroken right now. And actually I checked this morning and my local McDonald's over in Portsmouth was actually out of service for ice cream apparently earlier today. So that's a cool piece of technology that someone just said, hey, let me automate this and figure it out, and they have it posted. But if you look at their stats, it's on any given day, there's between 15% of the McDonald's ice cream machines are not in service. So people can't go get their ice cream or their McFlurries, which you need the ice cream machine to make the milkshake from. And I got a little interested in this, and other people have been interested in this too, as to why is it always so McBroken, especially because it's McDonald's, right? Which is like you expect it to be always available. And it turns out that they have this special kind of ice cream machine called the Taylor C602. And it can make the milkshake and the ice cream, the soft serve at the same time, which is pretty advanced. And the other thing that's really advanced about this system is that you don't have to take it apart and clean it every night. So you don't have to dump out the contents, the mix that becomes the ice cream. Instead, it cleans itself every night by pasteurizing the contents and the insides of the machine and then refreezing them in the morning. So you push a button and what should happen is that it does this special pasteurization and it refreezes and everything's fine in the morning and you're ready to now bring ice cream to your customers. But it breaks a lot. It breaks a lot. It breaks at least 13 to 15% of the time.
It's hard to pasteurize liquid cardboard. I'm just saying.
Why does it break so much? Well, partly, apparently, this is just a really kind of finicky machine. And because it's so advanced technologically, it also has some of these, it's just finicky. It's a little finicky. But it's also a little bit of a mystery about how to fix it. Because in the service manual, it doesn't say, this is how to fix the machine. When there's an error on the machine, instead of saying something like, hopper's too full of ice cream mix, it says, QRF82. And if you go into the service manual and you say, I wonder what that weird cryptic error translates to, the service manual just says, call a technician. And the technician that you call out works for Taylor, and the cost can be hundreds of dollars for a call. And some franchisees report spending thousands of dollars a month to get these systems serviced. Can they get another ice cream machine? No, because it's dictated by McDonald's. So this couple, enterprising couple, who wanted to create some other cool technology, which was the Frobot. And the Frobot was going to be automated frozen yogurt vending. They started to look at Taylor machines. So what they were doing was they were basically encapsulating a Taylor ice cream machine to dispense yogurt automatically at vending machines. They figured this would be really popular at like concert venues and at baseball stadiums and things. So they started to try and do that, and they realized that their Taylor machine kept failing and they couldn't figure out why. And a whole lot of work had to go on. But the net was they ultimately realized that there's a secret menu for the Taylor machines, ice cream machines, and for this C602, the special McDonald's one, that could be unlocked. And when that menu was unlocked, and you unlock it by like pushing the snow icon twice and the ice cream icon once, and ultimately entering 5231 is this whole big. But when you unlocked it, now instead of getting just these weird cryptic messages, you had all the information that you might need to understand why your system wasn't working. And this couple decided, we have a business here. This whole Frobot thing might not be working for us because the machines are too finicky, but here's this whole other job, this whole other business that we can create. And they did. They took a Raspberry Pi and they created a system that sits inside the ice cream machines and translates the error messages, puts it out over the Wi-Fi network, and on a nice mobile app, instead of getting this weird cryptic message about why your ice cream machine is not working, you have on your phone a really simple, this is what's wrong, and this is how to fix your own machine. Which you might think, yay, and the franchisees were super excited, but then Taylor and McDonald's got very unhappy, and they sent emails to their franchisees saying that they were, I don't want to say this improperly. They said that this solution breached the machine's confidential information and could cause serious human injury. So now there's a whole bunch of complicated legal doings going on about whether Kitsch, the company that created this device, has somehow violated Taylor or McDonald's intellectual property. They've responded. They've got a legal temporary restraining order against Taylor because they say Taylor let me make sure I got that. Trade secret appropriation is what they're saying with Taylor. So there's a whole bunch of legal stuff going on. But I think that the most interesting thing here, other than all these different technologies, right, between the enterprising startup folks and how this machine works, is just the right to repair. Right? Does this really come down to, should franchisees have the right, if they buy a system, should they be able to have a service manual and an interface that tells them why something's going wrong, especially if it's something as simple as it was overfilled, rather than having to call in a service technician? So that was the one. And I think the reason it was hitting the news again recently is this temporary restraining order just got upheld by a judge. So that's why I caught it this week. But this has been going on, as you can imagine from the story, for quite a while. So that's how ice cream and right to repair came together.
Look at that.
And hacking.
And hacking.
That's and hacking, right, a little bit of reverse engineering.
Are the codes on Shodan?
They might be.
So my first question, apart from why do you get ice cream from McDonald's, but I guess it good. I don't know. I don't.
It used to be good. I'm telling you.
All right, well, I trust you. I mean, that's probably why the machine were always broken because they were using it so much.
Constant use.
But the thing that really hit me is why the manufacturer decide to code the solution or even the problem. And I mean, is it kind of like you can't open your iPhone or any phone because you can't repair it? Like, was it already looking into that? And there is a business in repairing it as well. So we'd rather have it offline per se or not working, lose all the income from that than lose the income from repairing it too. I mean, I guess they were charging the franchisee
Apparently
to do that.
thousands of dollars a month, because while you, Marco, have not become a McDonald's ice cream convert, a lot of people are really into their soft serve, their sundaes and their McFlurries. So it's a big money maker for the franchisees, especially apparently Shamrock Shake Time is really, really popular. So they spend, some of them spend upwards of thousands of dollars a month on service calls to get these machines fixed.
Isn't this going against the interest of the franchisee of making money and sharing the money with the main company? I mean, I don't know what the agreement is there, but it just sounds really, what's your model? What are you making money?
Well, Taylor's making money on the service calls. So when you go into the manual and it says call the technician, they make money every time that technician comes out. I agree with you though. My confusion in this story is why McDonald's just doesn't say, hey, you know what? We're known for reliability and availability. We've become a bit of a joke about this, right? There's Mcbroken.com specifically about this problem. So it does kind of make me wonder why McDonald's doesn't go, I don't know, but maybe. So if you go deep down the rabbit hole, it's all this like it's cahoots and there's kickback from Taylor, which I have no idea about. What? There's a lot of conspiracy theories about why this is happening.
Well, there's my question, having slung some code in the past, is, was it developed from the beginning as a business model to encrypt the code?
Yeah.
Or I know for a fact that it's hard to identify the breaking points in code, right? And so oftentimes it just throws an error. And we used to have fun with one of the architects at a company I worked for, where he would look at the code dumps of software and be able to read the code in binary form to say, here's where the break is, and here's what that string of numbers means, and go back to the code to find it. And I mean, my sense is it's probably just a way to find where in the application that break occurred, and then eventually some human needs to get to it, and they can't be sending architects around. So that's where Taylor comes in. My guess is that's what happened.
Yeah, I think you need to be, give some good faith to this. And maybe because the machine sounds to be so complex as you describe it, it's self-clean and it does this and it does that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you really need an extremely qualified technician to fix it. Otherwise, maybe the flavor, as you say, I don't know if it's going to make, maybe it is dangerous. Maybe the ingredients are all going to get screwed up. Maybe, I don't know. But I guess that could be the reason why, where you don't want it to be fixed because it's not easy to fix. Maybe there is a reason for it. I don't know. Did they ever find out? Or, are we finding out?
Well, so there's this secret service menu that can be unlocked, and sometimes it is a fairly simple fix because apparently a big problem is that people overfill the hopper with the ice cream mix. And if it's overfilled, that's going to throw an exception, and that's a problem. So there are apparently some pretty easy, straightforward fixes that franchisees could do themselves, but you make a great point. I mean, this is supposedly a pretty finicky piece of equipment that does some pretty cool stuff, no pun intended.
That you eat.
That you eat.
So you're even more liable if something happened to a chain like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like if it doesn't get heated enough, then the pasteurization process wouldn't be cleaning it, but also then sterile. You're making the
Yeah.
mix
It could make
edible.
people
Yeah, so it
sick.
can get
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So did we resolve the mystery then?
Well, this is still going on in the
No, but
courts about what's going to happen,
we as Sherlock Holmes and you know, and I don't know how you want to
I'm
define
sure we
yourself.
solved it. Yeah.
I think we solved it.
It's solved. Yeah.
Sean, is it
Yeah,
solved?
No, it's solved. No frozen liquid cardboard for me.
Now I want to try
I don't
it.
know. I don't know where that's come from. Now you want to try it because that's a question. I mean, if it breaks so often, which you're going to get a good batch or not?
Just go to Mcbroken.com first and make sure that your local McDonald's machine is up, and then
The 5 9s of the
of ice cream.
Well, you know, I go back to what we were talking about last time about the right to repair. There are just certain things that people, everyday people that are not expert, they shouldn't screw with it because it may be dangerous. Like, you know, I go back to the car. I could probably try to fix my brakes, but it would probably not be a good idea because I'm simply not qualified to do that, and then I can create a very dangerous situation. So I don't know. Maybe it is completely legit. The reason why they're doing it that way, you know. So
maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe it's a mix. Maybe they could create a more reasonable interface that could tell you things that are simple that they feel that the average franchisee could do pretty safely, like take some of that the mixture out of the hopper, but then also if it's something that has to do with the temperature's not right, or there's glycol that gets used as part of this that could impact the safety of the food, then they could say, you know what, this is actually a bigger problem. Definitely call the service technician.
Yeah, I mean, if an airplane breaks, what are you going to do? Is it the pilot going to fix it as it is up in the air? No, you need the technician to do that.
Well, I just carry my airplane fix-it tools with me when I fly.
The little microscopic screwdriver used for eyeglasses.
Yeah, no problem. I got this MacGyver. That makes me think about MacGyver.
Yeah.
Right? We can fix everything with a couple of
chewing gum.
Yeah, a couple of wires and a clip, a paper clip, something like that. Yeah, Sean, do you bring something broken, or you bring something that works?
Mine should be quick. I think I don't know. Who knows where it'll go?
Unless it breaks, then it's gonna take forever.
Well, this is an experimental technology. And it's around music, and it's I'll just jump into it. It's a laser harp.
A laser harp.
A laser harp. And basically my understanding is the lasers are projected off a mirror, and they then go into a fan shape like a harp. Those can see there. And by placing I'm assuming the person playing it is using his hands, placing your hands into the ray of the laser, it triggers that sensor or the break in the ray or the laser beam to trigger a signal on the computer, which is then mapped to a sound, which in this case happens to be mapped to a harp sound. And so he has it programmed where different octaves and looks like he has a way to hold the pedal to let the sound reverberate and multiple strings play together. And in the article I was reading, it described as kind of like an 80s guitar band, air guitar for the harp, because you're playing these happens to be green laser beams, but you're playing not a stand-up harp. So it's kind of more of a projection. So you're standing in front of these laser beams, and you're just kind of poking at them. And yeah, each string has its own.
So the laser pretty much substitute the string.
Yeah. So there's no body around the harp. The lasers are the string. The beams are the strings.
And the beam, how does the beam translate to it? Is it going back to some translation point, like where a piece of software says I'm not,
Yes.
or
So
okay.
it looks, yes, it looks like, and I can't remember if it was a Raspberry Pi or something similar to that, kind of transmits and collects the beam signal, which is then connected to some
And then translates it
computer.
to sound.
Exactly.
Okay, corresponding sound.
Yes.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Exactly. What's the advantage of it?
Why not?
No, I know that there is always a why not, but I'm thinking like, they make guitars that are smaller to travel, that now there is
Okay.
an amplifier that you just plug into the electric guitar, and instead of going into an amp, you plug your headset in it, and you have all the distortion, the thing you want, so you don't need to have an amp. So that's like, okay, that's cool for practicing and not disturbing. So, I mean, there is a function size-wise, transportability. I mean, an harp is not an easy instrument to transport.
That's true.
That's for
That's
sure.
true.
So I'm wondering, what's the reason? What's the problem it's trying to resolve? And I don't know if this says that there, but I'm guessing.
Didn't say he was trying to solve a problem necessarily. I think
It's just cool. Why not?
Experimental, as I mentioned in the beginning. So I think and this is a bigger picture. I mean, this just happens to be a harp that's presented in laser beam form. But I was in Ireland a couple of years back, played a conference called Inspire Fest, and there was a whole group at Bell Labs. And Marco, we actually spoke to one of them, with Shaggy, about technology and instruments, and basically one guy was playing a drum, not with drumsticks, but with his hand, and the pressure on the skin and the movement of the hand picked up these sounds or the signals in a different way and translated those into music. So what he was playing a snare drum, but not as a snare drum you normally picture with drumsticks. So any type of technology like that is intriguing to me, making either different sounds with traditional instruments or traditional sounds with non-traditional instruments, in this case the laser beam.
Is the quality, because Marco brought up a really good point about traveling, right? That it may be difficult to travel with a harp or travel with a cello, for example. These are not small instruments. So but does it sound the same? So if I wanted to, I could do an impromptu if I.
In the sample that I have, and obviously we'll post this link in the show notes. But it sounds electronic. It's electronic music.
Okay.
It's an electronic harp, and it sounds electronic.
All right.
Now that just could be that this happens to be from a while back, a few years ago. So the mapping and the sound quality could be more realistic, perhaps now, with it connected to something more grand in terms of musicality and music quality. But
I want to hear it.
I want to hear it too. And I'm also wondering if it could be like, sort of like a way to teach people to play, if it could be used. Because if you hit the wrong note, it could turn red, so you could have a visual cue or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot that could be done with it. And yeah, I like the learning because it is very visual. And actually the creator of it said it's difficult to play because you don't feel the laser beam.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to see your hand break the plane or break the beam.
And you can't do. Can you do haptic feedback on? Does that sound stupid? Like, can you not?
Not in this version. You didn't have that. So that's one of the things he was saying is you really have to feel it and be in tune with it visually.
Yeah.
Well, this happened to everything that is electronic. I can't stop thinking of all the electronic music back in the 80s, and I'm sure Diana here, you may have a lot to say, as you used to play this kind of stuff on the radio, and Sean and I.
I was indie rock, man. I wasn't,
I know, but come on, the 80s,
electro industrial. No,
I mean, but the 80s there was a lot of experimentation. 70s too. I mean, you had like the Kraftwerk, you had like all this band.
Skinny Puppy.
the old,
swans.
you have the electric drums, which
Yeah.
just that song, the noise kind of drive me nuts just thinking about it. You have like the portable, keyboard, the one that you see when Duran Duran plays.
Okay.
But their sound was always, I mean, you couldn't bend that chord a little bit more. You couldn't just
Right.
touch it with the
Can't
drumstick, right?
tweak
It
the
was just
neck,
like, this is the
bend
sound
the
and this is
string.
what it is.
Yeah.
Sean, I mean, you play the drums, so what do you feel about that? Just the way you touch the chord, the string, the everything.
Yeah, and specifically with this one, it sounds very Devo like. So it has that kind of sound, right? And to your point, Marco, is very we programmed it to sound like this. That string, that beam sounds that way, and you play it. And to your point, you can't really, what I was saying earlier, you can't tweak the neck of a guitar, right? Or tweak the I don't know what you call the body of the
fret,
harp, the body of the harp. I don't know what it's called, the body, but anyway, you can't really tweak and get that whatever additional sound you want to get out of it. I didn't see him be able to do that now, and I was also thinking, well, the depth of your hand, no, I don't know, the location of the beam, maybe where you break the beam might change the sound, or might, I don't know, there may be ways to mess around with it.
Yeah.
There is
at this point, we're talking about music, and it's kind of funny because one of the historical news that I run into was that in these days, actually today, it was the first patent electric guitar registered. It was called the fried pan because it looked like a fried pan. It was the actual first electric guitar that then they modified in so many different ways. But, it connects with this. But it makes me think about a documentary that is called It Might Get Loud. And if you haven't seen it and you like guitar, you have to, because there is Jimmy Page, The Edge, and Jack White, that they get to meet each other. And there are three different style of guitar players. And it starts, like The Edge is just, his name is very electronic. He's all about amps, about, the U2, for the people that don't know that, the guitar player U2. And he's all about the way that the sounds that he can create with the guitar. And then, of course, you got Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin that pretty much invented so many different styles, the classic rock, but he also was very inventive. He was playing, the sound waves machines and all that kind of stuff. And then you got Jack White, which is the younger one, but is the really raw bluesman. And when he started, he said, if I don't bleed on my fingers, I'm not playing it right. And sometimes I just break a string just to see how it sounds without it. So there is that different approach to things that you can do with a physical instrument compared with an electronic digital instrument. So that's, I think, is a good conversation for many other things we do in life, like drawing, for example, with a pencil and a brush, and being an artist versus being an artist on an iPad, on a software that you use a pen. I mean,
is it real?
Let's talk about that. Is it real as
digital?
the other one or not? Is music real if it's created by an artificial intelligence or is not?
Well, I mean, there's a difference of it. And are we going? I think any music is music, and any art is art. But there's a difference between if it was made by a computer, I think, than if it's made by a person. And there is a difference, but I mean, I've talked to some artists, because I think this is a really fascinating question about, what if I take, pencils or gouache or oils, and I paint something or I draw something, versus what if you draw it online? And most of the artists that I have spoken to said that it's all art and it's all creativity, human creativity. But it's just a different medium. You can do different things in the physical world than you can do with the digital medium. And it's not that one's better than another. It's just that they see them as just, it's like most artists won't tell you that, an oil painting is better than a chalk painting. It's just which medium they really feel that they can express themselves.
But it is.
That one's better than the other.
Of course.
For you, that's because it's
So
art
what's
is
better?
subjective.
That's the point.
Yeah,
Or
I
oil
see where you were
paintings
going
better?
with that. It's
What about
very
like
subjective.
Odilon Redon and his like beautiful sort of chalky watercolors that they have to protect? Like you only like oil paintings? Is that it?
Yeah, only oil.
Sean was being sarcastic there. I can speak sarcasm, so
Yes.
I got that. But no, I think your point, Diana.
As an example, I came across a trash bin, and I came across a light pole that were both just plastered with stickers, and
Yeah.
and that was just a bunch of people putting stickers on things. But if you stop and look at it, you can see that was something created. It's more than just that trash bin or that light pole. There's something created by multiple people touching and engaging with it, and it has its own little color scheme. And to me, that is art, even though it's
a crowdsourced
Collective
art.
art. Yeah.
I love it,
Yeah.
and spontaneous too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it may just be like a graffiti, then you add another graffiti on top of that graffiti, you expand that graffiti, and everybody can contribute to it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's very
Inspiring each other.
very
Yeah,
inspiring.
So I think art happens all over in many different mediums, and it's some of it's digital.
And I love how we just went from ice cream at McDonald's to a laser harp to now we're talking about art. And I think that's the kind of conversation I like, because it just shows how everything is connected. And I think the key here is what you just said, is the medium. We just had a podcast with a social linguist, a professor of social linguistics. And we talked about how language is, when you study linguistic, it is not just the voice that comes from your mouth. It include any kind of language, which is, hands language and signs and expression on your face, writing and all of that thing. So she said the same thing. It's almost like the medium is different, but that's still a way to express ourselves. And I'm Sean, I'm seeing that connection right here when Diana said it's the different medium, but it's still the expression of our being humans. And if that means that you get a synthesizer, Herbie Hancock, and you make jazz with that, totally cool. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to say that sucks. It may not be your cup of cake, but it's not.
Yeah, it's still really cool.
Yeah.
And how about so I had a podcast with a company that is doing artificial intelligence art. It's painted by adversarial artificial intelligence.
The GAN,
there is the critic. There is the critic and there is the artist. And from scratch, they kind of, of course, each one has his own algorithm, and they, in the end, they try to get better at that. And the artists, some really reflect certain style because there gotta be an input. They gotta see something. They gotta get inspired by something. And some it's actually very, very unique. And so the big question that we had in this conversation was, how do let's say it's already a bias here, but how do real artists that do it with their hands instead of artificial intelligence feels about it? Do they feel like it's going to compete with them, or is just a different? Is it still human or not?
The AI is really pissed off at the human.
So I have a different question, which is, how does the human feel looking at the art? Because you've probably heard this thing about like, oh, modern art, like my kindergartner could do that. And very often people are looking at things like Jackson Pollock, which is like, it's just a bunch of spatters. But if you stood in front of some Jackson Pollocks and some imitations, there's a physical difference in how you react to that. Like you can sense something, and I think it's part of the creator somehow, not to get mystical, but something is different about really good expression than just somebody throwing a bunch of paint spatters against a wall. So I wonder, how are human beings reacting to the GAN art, the AI generated art? Are we missing that humanity in the creation, or is it just, hey, that's a cool looking piece of art? And that's what less about like if artists feel like their jobs are being taken away, and more about how do we interact as viewers in the art? Because I think good art is good art. So if the GAN creates something that makes us react, then I guess I'd be worried as an artist.
Yeah, and I was with you on that, Diana. And kind of to our point in the conversation we had earlier today, Marco, there's the person communicating and then the one receiving, right? And perception, well, the intent from the one and the perception of the other could be full spectrum, right? And they meet in the middle somewhere, or maybe not. I think the same here for art, right? So somebody does something creative from their heart and maybe with some intent, and then somebody receives it in the way they receive it. Now they may want to know what the intent was for that creation, and then try to map to it, or they may just free form. I'll take it for what it is. And
my vision here, and I mean the way I see it is, a true artist doesn't think about, is my piece gonna sell or not? The artist, I'm very romantic about this, right? Like it does it because he's expressing himself, and it doesn't give a shit if he's gonna sell or not. A lot of artists died poor, either because nobody appreciated what they were doing at the time or not, and now they're worth $1 million. Van Gogh being one of them, for example. Others, they were able to do art and also be good business people, like Picasso. I wouldn't pay $1 for a Picasso, but the guy made a lot of fortune with it, and all the people appreciate it. I don't see it. So my point is, some people see something in art, some people don't. But what if artificial intelligence, adversarial machine, creates something that strikes a chord with me? Do I care?
Right.
I mean, do I have to analyze, the artist, like the critic do, they're trying to say this is the political, societal moment, this is what it's trying to do, what is background? What if it's just like so cool? Do we need to have a message in it?
As long as it's in oil.
Right, well, because otherwise it's just terrible. Yeah, no,
I know this is not technology, this is art conversation, but we're going into technology because a lot of this art is made better, maybe, or worse because of technology.
I think you're right, though, that's going to be the question: is this art going to be connecting to people and changing people and how they feel and how they interact with it, or is it just going to be some of that? I mean, because there is sort of corporate art that was designed to sell ultimately, and then you get a bunch of people on board, and then it's almost like an NFT. It's like it's just like it's this thing that people are selling because it's valuable, not because it has any real meaning to them. Versus the art that makes us feel very different when we see it. I have these New Yorker covers done by, I think the name of the artist was Jenny Oliver, and she was doing New Yorker covers in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe. And they're kind of cutesy, but really intricate and beautiful. And I love them. I've loved them since I saw them as a kid. I kept I kept 4, so I have like the 4 seasons, and I just see it and I interact with it and I absolutely love it. Is it valuable? I hope that this artist was successful, but I just know how it makes me feel. And I think the question is going to be, will any of this GAN art, AI developed art, is it going to have that kind of impacts on humans? And if so, great, because that's one of the things that art makes us think, art makes us feel, art makes us happy, it makes us sad. And if it can do that, that's great. Or is it just going to be something that people decide to slap a value on and start trading and watching it appreciate, but it doesn't ever really have an impact on others other than financially?
Artificial intelligence will tell us we're supposed to like
it. The machines will tell us that.
We'll be tricked into doing so.
Well,
We're
what
machine
else?
art critics of machine art.
Exactly.
You know what else tells a lot of time what people are supposed to like is other people liking it. So
Consensus,
Diana,
yeah.
you have this piece that honestly you don't like it because you know it's worth something. You just like it. So that goes back to the other side of the coin, where I said the true artist, in my opinion, doesn't do it to sell it. It's just something that happened, then people like it. But
Yeah.
probably couldn't care less. He wants to express something, and he does it in a most beautiful way. Sometimes it moves people, sometimes it doesn't. And the other way around, if you're going to judge something because it's already worth a lot of money, you say, oh, it got to be good. There's a line at the restaurant, it got to be good. Everybody likes this. That's not how art works. And you can appreciate maybe a little kid did something that is unique and trigger a memory, a feeling, anything like that, that gives so much value to you that you probably wouldn't sell it even if it cost $1 million. So I think that's true art.
Yeah.
If there is a logic behind it, if there is a motive, I think it's not real art. And this goes to music as well. If you're doing something commercial because you know it's going to sell, yeah. Sorry, I'm a snob like that.
So I hear where you're coming from, but actually one of my favorite writers for fun is P.G. Woodhouse. And he's famous for Jeeves and Wooster, if you know about those characters, but he was a comedic writer, and he did not want to work in a bank all his life. So he really worked on writing in a way that he knew he would be able to support himself. But he also wrote out of sheer love, and he wrote in a way that what he thought about a lot was, how's this going to impact the reader? Will they laugh? Because that's his whole purpose in life. So he wants people to laugh. Will they laugh? So he was writing for his life, he often said. But there was a real passion and artistry in it, even though he did think about whether or not it was going to be able to support himself. And ultimately, the animal shelter that he left his money to when he passed on.
Okay, so that yes, of course. I mean, in order to thrive,
yeah,
you need to have the means to do that. And history teaches you that many artists they did die of disease or they couldn't support their family, and I mean they were still amazing artists. But maybe, yeah, I mean, okay. I get it. If they thought a little bit better about how selling themselves, maybe it would allow them to do more, right? Well, okay.
So here's another.
Possibly. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. There's not an answer.
There's another quick angle back to my story, where I think technology, kind of bring back technology as well. Technology allows all of us, I think, to be artists, and we can play around. We can do things that we're sometimes limited to others with means to do things. And maybe 99% of it is junk and gets tossed. But we have, especially when it becomes digital, right? We have an opportunity to experiment and try something, and there's no real cost if it gets saved to a hard drive and then thrown away. Right. And then the real one that does get some attention, does get some love, does get some attraction. That's the one that goes. So who knows, maybe we're able to experiment more with art now because of technology.
Yeah, and I like it. And that connect everything together with technology that can be, I agree. That is the equalizer. Like look at photography and right. I mean, before you wanted take great picture. Well, first of all, you need to be a good photographer. It's not just the camera, but now you can do that with a portable camera that costs a lot less than the $5,000, $6,000. And I'm going to close this because it's time with this story that it just came in my mind, and I love it, and I think it connects a lot of things. There was this famous photographer that was invited. I don't remember the name, but apparently it's a true story. Was invited in New York at a big party of very wealthy family, and he goes there. He's invited, and the owner that threw the party, he says, "I love your work. You're a great photographer. You must use a very expensive camera." And he answered with something like, "Oh, thank you. Your food was really good too. You must have a very expensive kitchen." So the point is, the medium is important, but in the end, you got the art or you don't. And I thought it was,
for the tools and the technology.
Exactly. So I think if technology is the equalizer, but still you need to have that. That the motivation, the uniqueness, and the skill to do something like that.
You can give me all the good oil paints in the world and the best brushes, and I still can't paint anything very good. So,
to each his own, right? I think that may be one of the meaning of life, to find your vocation. And if you have watched the movie Soul from Pixar, talking about music and Jet's music, I mean, that's all about that. What's your spark? And so there is music, there is spark, there is a meaning for what you do in life, and sometimes it's teaching, or sometimes it's playing music and pulsars, search, whatever it is, do it. You got to try.
So I'm going to go and get some oil.
Some harps.
And vinegar, and I'm going to paint an oil and vinegar salad. And then eat it.
And also check if you can get an ice cream.
That's right. Then finish it off with some ice cream.
All right. This was fun as usual. We're going to have to close it here because we got not important things to do, I guess. But this was very important. I love where we went. I mean, again, unscripted, unedited. This is who we are. If you like it, good. If you don't, well, tell your friends. Maybe they'll like it. It's like art. Maybe you don't, but somebody else will. We hope we.
And either way, we'll make you next week at the same time.
Next week, same times, and I'm probably going to be doing it from a car or from a park or
from technology
or from nowhere.
Marco Unleashed.
Unleashed. Thanks to technology, hopefully, if the 5G is out there. All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. We hope you enjoyed it.